Have you ever stood in a place so profoundly quiet you could hear the frantic thumping of your own heartbeat? A silence so absolute it feels like a physical pressure. This is a place far from the comforting glow of city lights, a world away from the constant hum of civilization. Here, the only sound is the mournful sigh of the wind moving through the trees, a lonely whisper carrying forgotten secrets. We are conditioned to seek out solitude. We think we are safe when we are alone. We believe that silence means peace. But what if that assumption is tragically wrong? What if silence is not empty? What if it's a canvas, waiting for a dark picture to be painted? A vacuum, begging to be filled by something other than peace. Imagine that quiet not as an absence, but as a presence. A held breath. A stage perfectly set, waiting for the curtain to rise on an unspeakable act. What if it is just a space waiting for something to fill it? The world is full of vast, empty places where the stage is always set. Deep forests, where tangled undergrowth can swallow a path in minutes. Long highways, hypnotic ribbons of asphalt stretching into an indifferent horizon. And forgotten towns, skeletal remains of communities left to rot. These are the pockets of the world where the safety net of society is gone. Places where your phone shows no bars, where the nearest sign of life is an hour's drive away. These are the places where help is far away, where a scream might never be heard. It's a terrifying vulnerability, the sudden, stark realization that you are utterly on your own. And that is why the middle of nowhere scares us. It is not the emptiness we fear. It's the chilling possibility that it isn't empty at all. It's the gut-wrenching fear of what might be hiding within that silence, just beyond the reach of the headlights, just inside the dark tree line. It is what might be hiding within it, just out of sight, waiting patiently. The stories we are about to explore are not stories of ghosts or monsters from old books. We can close a book and reassure ourselves it was fiction, but you can't do that with these accounts. These are real stories about real people. People who, through a simple twist of fate, a wrong turn, a car breakdown, found themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. They stepped into the quiet places of the world and discovered that they were not alone after all. Their experiences remind us that the greatest horrors are not imaginary. They are human, and sometimes they are unexplained. These events are the chilling possibilities that lurk just beyond our well-lit world. They are documented in police files and whispered in local legends. These events happened, and the questions they leave behind are sometimes more frightening than any monster could ever be, haunting us long after the story is over. Our first story begins in the fall of 2009, deep within the sprawling, rugged wilderness of Oklahoma's Sans Bois Mountains. This is a place of stark, isolated beauty, where dense forests stretch for miles, swallowing roads and sound. It's a landscape that keeps its secrets, a place where people can, and sometimes do, simply vanish. Here, the Jamison family, Bobby, his wife Sherilyn, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison, hoped to find a new beginning. They were drawn by the promise of peace and solitude, looking to buy a 40-acre plot of land. This remote parcel, nestled deep in the woods miles from any town, was their chance to build a life away from everything. On October 8th, they loaded their white pickup truck for what should have been a simple scouting trip. They packed lightly, expecting to be home by nightfall. But in a move that would later baffle investigators, they kept their destination a secret. It was a normal family outing, a day trip to chase a dream of a quiet life. But the quiet they found was not the kind they were looking for. As they drove deeper into the mountains, the silence that fell over them was not peaceful. It was permanent and suffocating, an unsettling quiet that would echo for years to come. Days bled into a week. The Jamisons' home remained empty, their mail piling up. The short trip had stretched into an unnerving absence. Finally, with growing panic, friends and family alerted the authorities, and a massive search began. 8 days after they were last seen, their pickup was discovered abandoned on a remote dirt road. The doors were locked. Inside, investigators found a scene that was both mundane and deeply disturbing. The family's dog, Maisie, was in the back, emaciated but alive. On the front seat lay their wallets, cell phones, and a GPS unit. Nothing was stolen. Most perplexing of all, tucked under the driver's seat was an envelope with $32,000 in cash. The scene was frozen in time, a snapshot of a family that had simply stepped out of the frame. Everything was there, everything except the Jamisons. It was bizarrely normal, yet deeply wrong. The police were baffled. Robbery wasn't the motive. There was no sign of a struggle. Why abandon their truck, their money, their dog? The search for Bobby, Sherilyn, and Madison intensified across the rugged terrain, but the mountains held their silence. Investigators checked the phone photos. The last picture, Madison, standing by the road, arms crossed, clearly uncomfortable, not happy, scared. The photo taken a short distance from the truck, a final haunting glimpse before they vanished. 4 long years with no answers. The forest kept its secret. In 2013, hunters found skeletal remains less than 3 miles from the truck. Dental records confirmed it was the Jamison family, found face down side by side, cause of death undetermined. No signs of a struggle, no bullet holes, no broken bones. They had simply laid down and died. The mystery deepened. Why leave the truck? Why walk 3 miles into the woods only to lie down and perish together? The money, the strange photo, the peaceful, tragic end, no logical conclusion. Now, let us travel north, to a lonely stretch of road in British Columbia, Canada. It is called Highway 16, but for decades it has been known by another, more sinister name, the Highway of Tears. This 450-mile-long road winds and bends through a beautiful but desolate landscape, thick forests, towering mountains, isolated communities. For many people who live there, especially in indigenous communities, hitchhiking is common and necessary. There are few buses, not everyone owns a car. That simple act of trust, getting into a stranger's vehicle, turned a scenic highway into a hunting ground. The story isn't one event, but a long, tragic collection. It began in the late 1960s. Young women, mostly indigenous, started to disappear. One by one, last seen on Highway 16, thumb outstretched, hoping for a ride to the next town, to a job, to see family. But they never arrived. Families waited. Calls went unanswered. A cold dread set in. The vast wilderness lining the highway hides secrets. People can vanish without a trace, swallowed by endless green and gray. Officially, 18 women are listed as victims. Along the Highway of Tears, fear isn't just a feeling, it's a presence. A living, breathing entity that clings to the mist-shrouded pines and whispers on the cold, biting wind. It settles over the small, isolated communities that dot this lonely stretch of road, a permanent, suffocating blanket of dread. This fear is a dark inheritance, passed down from mothers to daughters, from one generation to the next. It's woven into bedtime stories that are less fairy tale and more cautionary tale. It's in the unspoken rules. Never walk alone after dark. Never trust a friendly face in a passing car. Always, always let someone know where you are going. It's a legacy of caution born from decades of loss. You can see this fear made manifest, nailed to telephone poles and taped to community bulletin boards. Weather-beaten posters, their ink bleeding from the constant rain, scream silent warnings to anyone who will listen. Some are official, printed in stark, impersonal fonts. Others are more chilling, hastily scrawled by hand, a desperate plea from a community under siege. They all carry the same terrifying message: girls don't hitchhike. Killer on the loose. For those who have no choice but to travel this road, these signs aren't just warnings, they're monuments to the missing. Each one is a constant, gnawing reminder that danger lurks just beyond the next bend, hidden in the deep shadows of the forest. To truly understand the horror, place yourself on the shoulder of that road. Imagine the biting cold, the hours spent watching headlights approach and then vanish. Then finally, the relief as a vehicle slows. A friendly nod, a door swinging open. For a fleeting moment, there is hope. But then, the conversation falters. The driver's smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. The questions become too personal. The turnoff for your town flashes by. That initial hope is extinguished, replaced by a cold nod of confusion. You mention the missed turn. He just smiles. The confusion curdles into raw, primal fear. You realize the doors are locked. The car isn't just failing to slow down, it's accelerating, pushing deeper into the wilderness. The pavement gives way to gravel as the car lurches onto an unmarked, unfamiliar logging road, a path to nowhere. The majestic forest, a place of beauty, transforms. The towering trees are no longer a backdrop, they are the bars of a cage. The dense canopy swallows the last of the twilight. Out here, miles from anywhere, the silence is absolute, a heavy blanket broken only by your own frantic heartbeat, your desperate pleas, and the chillingly calm indifference of your attacker. This unimaginable sequence is the ghost that haunts the waking moments and nightmares of the families left behind. It's a silent, horrific film that plays on a loop in their minds. For every missing person's poster that yellows and fades, there is a family trapped in a state of suspended grief. They are left to wonder, to search, to hope against all odds. For For them, the Highway of Tears is not just a name on a map. It is a wound that will not heal, a permanent scar on their hearts, a long, dark corridor of unanswered questions that stretches into an eternity of sorrow.